There we go, my new book, which you should have in your delegate bags. It's called Connected Television: How TV's Analog Strengths Have Created a Digital Supermedium. Like every great story, this one has a hero who undergoes trials and tribulations, is left for dead, and then finds redemption, emerging stronger than ever. And that hero, as you might have guessed by now, is television. What I've done is seen new technologies, new services, and new behaviors emerge within an existing ecosystem. And I'm a great believer that consumers want things which enhance existing behaviors rather than to replace them. I think what we've got to do is look at what else was going on in parallel when we were dazzled by digital. Because during exactly the same time period, new insights and new understandings in terms of human behavior and motivation, and particularly the power of emotion and implicit memory and things that are below our levels of awareness, how important they are in everything we do and everything we decide. And yet, even today, the majority of marketing metrics are firmly aimed at the conscious, rational brain, which isn't the Oval Office making executive decisions in our minds. It's actually the press office issuing explanations for actions we've already taken. And I don't know about you, but if I want to get to the truth, I rarely go to the press office. Now, what's all this got to do with television? Well, what neuroscience has proven is that TV works on the two parts of the brain where this all happens. The amygdala, which governs our emotional processing, and the hippocampus, which is responsible for encoding our long-term implicit memory. And if you think about that, emotions and memory, where brands live. And TV creates that more than anything else, which is fantastic, because that's what influences our decisions. Even the most rational decisions we'll ever take are basically formed in those two parts of the brain. And it drives the fortunes of brands, of markets, even economies. I would argue our current economic state is down to emotion, primarily greed. And it's in both the short term, but also, let's not forget, the long term. That long-term memory stays with us forever. And we still haven't got to the edges of how big it is. There's another period, which is classical economics, smarter little brother, behavioral economics. And what this has taught us through a whole range of different sets of thinking is the importance of context. That as human beings, we don't behave predictably and formulaically and in the same way. That everything we do is swamped by the context around us. I just want to take this a stage further, because let's think about that in terms of the context within which your marketing and brand messages and communications are processed, discussed, and acted upon. Because during the time when people are at home, at the end of the working day or the end of the working week, in comfortable, familiar surroundings, in a mindset that is relaxed, receptive, ready to engage, and ready to share, TV takes about 75% of our total media time during that context. And that, I would argue, is when that emotional processing is formed and those long-term implicit memories are created. And I don't want to demean other media, but it's very different to where most of the media are clamoring for our attention. When we're on the commute to work, when we're rushing between meetings, dropping the kids off at school, or grabbing a quick bite to eat at our workstation. No doubt whatsoever, those media moments are also important. But they're important as a subset of what's formed during that most important time of all, which I think is where TV absolutely dominates. And there's the on-screen context of viewing as well, where your brand messages and communications, those brand stories, are being consumed around quality content. Not just the programs, but the advertising around it as well. And we know from a number of different studies that that has a huge influence, not just on how things are processed, but what people begin to believe about the brand itself. We should never forget the importance of context, because I think it is key to how those brand stories and communications get processed. And so it won't surprise you, these are all what I'd call analog qualities. They're human qualities. They're things that make us much, much greater than pure data can ever tell.